Today's class is class number 668. And it's called The Promised Land. If y'all recall, I was talking last week about once the Spirit of God came to Abram in the Ur of Chaldee, and he was told to go to Haran. He went. And after he had been in Haran for so long, he was told it's time to move on. And he was going to take him to the promised land. And what's amazing is what I'm getting ready to read you from Hebrews, because he got to, I want to say, he and Lot, they went through all of their changes, and they went to, Lot ended up in Sodom. Then he had to rescue him and get him out of Sodom. And then it came out, and Lot lost his wife because he was separated from Abram. Finally, it's time, and they go on to a certain place, and they got to fight to maintain, and they they get that, and then we finally get on up to Abram after he has his son at 99 years old, and now things have it moves on into Noah. The land is all tore up. Again, just keep thinking about the fact, though, that this is all part of the Adam dream. Ain't none of this real. It's a part of the Adam dream. Then we go from Noah and what have you. We get to Moses. Moses comes along, and he leaves and goes up into a mountain. God buries him. He turns it over to Joshua, and Joshua then and all of the people with him, they all go off and they destroy. They break the wall down by the word, and then they go off and they go to fighting all these Amalekites and the Moabites and all kinds of ites. Everything they all a war, just wars and wars and wars and wars, trying to possess the land that God had brought them into. And I thought it offers is other thing that was strange was, and this sets the tone. Abraham, God changed his name from Abram, which was, as I said, father of exalted father, to Abraham, father of multitudes. And he says, in you shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Keep in mind, Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. So we go on, and they're supposed to be, God is supposed to take them into the promised land. Now let me read you something from Hebrews 11. It says, it was by faith that Abel offered a more excellent sacrifice to God than Cain. It was by faith Enoch departed and did not taste death, because he pleased God. By faith Noah, when he was warned concerning the things not seen, he became fearful and made an ark. Became fearful. Okay. And I would think that word fearful there means reverence, because Noah was a preacher of righteousness, so he wasn't scared. But since he revered God, he made an ark, and they were saved from the floods. Abraham, when he was called to depart for the land which he was to receive, for a land which he was to receive for an inheritance, he obeyed. He became a sojourner in the land which was promised him as in a strange country. And he had Isaac and Jacob. And then as we go on, it says, they all died in faith, not having received the promised land. I thought all of the promises of God were kept. So God made them a promise, and they didn't receive the promised land. Well, we talk about Jacob and Joseph, and let's see, there's some more here as you go on. Moses forsook Egypt. By faith, they passed through the Red Sea. By faith, Rahab the harlot did not perish. All these people using faith. Gideon, Barak, Samson. He said, but they didn't receive the promised land. So that took me off on a spiritual excursion where I said, well, wait a minute. Why did they get the promised land? You know why? Because all they did was fight. All you saw was a whole lot of fighting going on, trying to possess some land that was with trees, some flat land, this mountain, Caleb, give me this mountain. All these people fighting. But they weren't fighting the fight of faith. They weren't receiving grace. The grace they received was the best that they could understand, and that was to beat the enemy, because they had a real enemy. And it went on to even say that Abraham looked for a land, for a city that had a foundation whose builder and maker was God. So he was looking for something that was other than, he's the father of faith now. He's looking for something that's other than 20 acres and a mule. He's looking for something other than a nice plot of land and this big house sitting on it, colonial house, or he was looking for something other than farmland to become a farmer and get a bunch of vegetables and sell them. And he wasn't looking for that. He's looking for something else. And then one came in the name of the Lord. Well, if you go back, it says another one said, I came in the name of the Lord. But remember now, we have learned from the Gospel of Thomas that when you come in the name of the Lord, it means the name of the Lord is when the two agree in the house. The thought and the feeling, the emotion and the thought. When those two agree, there's a demonstration, a manifestation of what you agreed about. So, obviously, Abraham did not come into a full agreement about the promised land because it says they didn't receive the promised land. But Jesus Christ came in the name of the Lord because he came with the thought and the feeling agreeing in the house, and he had a manifestation of it. Now, why did he have the manifestation of the promised land? Because he was not a fighter. He was not. They thought he came to get a group of people so that they could storm the Capitol, overturn the Roman government. That ain't what he came for. He came to show people that he had received the promised land. And he came to show people how to receive the promised land. Now, out of all of the people that are around, he's got 11 of them that's going to understand and walk with him, and he's got one that's not going to quite get it. And so at the end, you say, well, why did this guy do what he did? Well, he had a part to play. You see, he had agreed within himself, the two in the house had agreed that if I do this, I'm gonna make some money. Y'all know anybody like that? I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna get this. If I do this, I'm going into this business because I'm gonna do what? Make money. And so we got this one guy that's got a part to play. He doesn't deceive Jesus. He basically turns and goes another way. And he goes to the Pharisees to help set him up. But Jesus had already predicted that this is what's going to happen because why? He had the thought and the feeling of, I am going to show the world salvation. I am not going to save the world. The world, as you see it, is ugly. As you see it, is evil. It is a fabrication of the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell in, that God made. It's a complete fabrication of that. It is nothing to be desired because it's always going to change and it's going to always go back. You'll be made to feel that it's changing for the better, but it's not. It can't. It is nothing more than changing images, which we call nothing. And when you hear me say that everything you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell out here, everything out here is nothing, when you hear me say that, what I mean is it means that it has no substance to it. It is just a changing picture. It does not mean nothing, mean emptiness or a void. It's just nothing. No, that's not what it means. It means it's a changing picture. It has no permanence. It has no substance. I don't care the chair you sitting in, the house you living in, all that. That's nothing. It has no substance. The only thing real about what's going on in the world that you look at is the idea of truth or the idea of reality. And ideas don't change. I have an idea of an apple. It's going to always be an apple. I don't care. It's always going to be an apple. It could be a yellow one. It could be a red one. It could be a green one. It's always going to be an apple. And the idea of fruit is always going to be fruit. The idea doesn't change, but the banana will rot. The apple will rot. They will just dry, the lemon will just dry right up. But will the idea go away? And the problem is we don't live by faith. Because faith is living and expressing the idea. Faith is knowing that the idea is all there is. Faith does not know anything about a couch that's wearing out. The ideal couch, the ideal comfort, the ideal sitting down, that never goes away. Now, there is no idea of going out here and trying to heal somebody's body. There's no such thing as that. Because the body that you are supposed to know is part of the city that has a foundation whose builder and maker is God. So you can't destroy anything that God made. You can forget that. So Jesus comes with that kind of a consciousness. And because he is that kind of a man, not a fighter, he is a man who constantly receives and recognizes grace, the power of salvation. Why do we need salvation? So that we can turn from judging by what something looks like to realizing the idea behind the manifestation. So, like him, you ready for this? By the grace of God, we have the mind of Christ. That's in 1 Corinthians chapter 2. Let me find that right quick. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. This is great stuff. He says, by faith, we might not rest in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. Now, if you jump way down to the end, it says, for the material man rejects spiritual things, neither can he know them because they are spiritually discerned. But the spiritual man discerns everything, and yet no man can discern him. For who knows the mind of the Lord that he may teach it? But we have the mind of Christ. So anytime you start thinking that you got your own personal mind, and you can, with your own mind, you can do things. You can create things. Once I realized that Jesus meant it when he said, in and of myself, I can do nothing, but the Father within, he doeth the works. I knew he was talking about the Father within is the mind of Christ. It is the divine mind. It is spiritual. That's what does everything. A personal mind can't do anything at all. Here's an example. I do it all the time. You ever try, all of a sudden you go to think of somebody's name and you say, well, it won't come to me right now, but and you keep trying to think of this person's name. But if you realize within you, it's going to be given to me. You ever notice it just pops in, bing, when you least expect it? Because you're not trying anymore. See, when you stop and you fight the good fight of faith and you say, well, I'm just, you know what? I know this, so I'm just going to go on. Well, how do you know it? Because the mind of Christ is omniscient and it is all-knowing. So therefore, the moment you stop and you say, well, I have the mind of Christ. I don't have to fight to try to remember what I was supposed to do. I'm just going to let it pop in. Let there be. That's what that means. I'm just going to let it. Now, let's hop over here in Philippians. And he says, I think this is the one where he says, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. He says, here it is. It says, if therefore you have found, starting at verse 1, chapter 2, Philippians, if you have found consolidation, found consolation in Christ, or wholehearted love or fellowship of the Spirit or compassion and mercies. You ask yourself, have you found it? Have you found wholehearted love, fellowship, the Spirit or compassion and mercies? If you have, complete my joy by being in one accord and one love and one soul and one mind. What? Be in one mind, one state of mind. Do nothing through strife or vainglory, that the fighting part is, but in humility let each regard his neighbor better than himself. How many people do that? Let no man be mindful only of his own things, but let everyone be mindful of the things of his neighbor also. And here's the power. Reason this within you, which Jesus Christ also reasoned. See, you do some reasoning until you come to a point where this is right and you feel emotional about doing what is right. What happens? Being the two have become one in the house. This is what Jesus reasoned. Being in the form of God, he did not consider it robbery to be equal with God. He didn't think he was stealing anything at all. To realize I and my Father are one. Made of himself of no reputation and took upon him the form of a servant and was in the likeness of men. See? Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. What mind is that? The mind of Christ, which is God. So now, we realize now that mind that is in Christ Jesus, that mind that we're going to let be in us allows us to reason, allows us to come to the point of agreement within ourselves that the thought and the feeling about a certain something is right. We're not judging by appearances. We realize that the idea is the only thing that's real, period. Once we've done that, that is the power of salvation. I am delivered from this so-called mortal man. It blows my mind. This one woman told me one time, I know I'm saved. I said, don't get in this, man. You know, y'all, SOS. SOS means what? Help. Isn't that what it means? That's the signal that people, the SOS signal. To me, the SOS don't mean help. SOS means stay out of stuff. Stay out of stuff. Leave people alone. Let them roll on down the road. The woman thought she was saved because she goes to church. She listens at the pastor. She tithes. She puts money in. She went up to the front. She said the sinner's prayer. How many times? I was talking to a guy yesterday. He said, you know what I got sick of? I said, what? He said, going to church and somebody talking about I'm a sinner saved by grace. He said, they don't even know what that means. I said, I know. See, everybody at some particular point thought that they were immortal. And then by grace, it was a transformation. I realized the mind of Christ. Paul said, put on immortality. There the salvation is right there. There is no more. I went from mortality to immortality. I realized this is who I am. And so therefore, there's nothing else. There's no such thing as a student sitting around trying to learn something because his head is not going to accept it. Remember, we read that a minute ago. The natural man will not discern spiritual things, will not accept spiritual reality, will not accept that, the piano is changing, but in reality, the idea behind it is going to be, how long have they been making pianos? How long has the idea of music been going on in the mind of God? So if it's not going on in the mind of God, it ain't going on nowhere. It can't. See, we understand in that mentality, that mindset, that attitude, that spiritual reality of all there is an idea, every problem always has the perfect answer. Every problem. I don't care what it is, it has an answer. The answer is before the problem. You know how we know that? I quote it every week. Isaiah 65, verse 24. Before they call, I have answered. Who? I. So that means you are the answer to whatever your problem is. You are the answer. Not the person in the mirror. Not this. Not this head or this body. Not this. You are the answer to your problem. What are you? You are the I. Before the foundations of the world, you am. Before the foundations of the world, I am. Before Abraham was, I am. Before Michael was, I am. That's all there is to me. You see, we said last week, you're called. You are called into the ministry to serve. So how am I called? What am I called to do? To be. See, that's all there is. That's God, everything. And what is am? Remember, I told you my aunt was a school teacher. And she taught me how to conjugate verbs. So to conjugate the verb, let's do it again. The verb to be starts out, I am. So I am called to be. That's it. There is no more than that. You are the answer. Now, during the week, Alice gave me a call. It was a tremendous blessing because Alice had bought this book by Greg Braden, and it was called The Isaiah Effect. And she called to tell me about it and what have you. And I asked her, I got back in touch with her, and I said, have you listened at the Isaiah Effect on YouTube? And she said, no, I didn't think about that. I said, well, check it out on YouTube. I said, it's tremendous. and she went and listened at it on YouTube. She got back with me and said, oh, wow. A lot of clarity in this, isn't it? I said, yep. The biggest takeaway from it, and I suggest all you take a listen at it. It's called the Isaiah effect. The biggest takeaway from it on YouTube is this. He says, go back over your life experience, and everything that has ever hurt you, challenged you, somebody blocked you from doing something, somebody stopped something. It was anything that you felt that was discordant, anything that came at you the wrong way and what have you. You know what he said? Bless it. Just bless that thing. I don't care what it was. Somebody stopped you. You got cut from the basketball team for no reason. You got kicked off the bus. You got this, that you got discriminated against. You got all this kind of stuff. Bless it, because it takes you out of bondage. The grace brings you the freedom. You are blessing everybody that has ever said anything negatively or untoward about you. You just blessed it. He says, you are the angel. You are the one who can bless. It does say, every time you read something in the Bible and it says, I will bless them, that's you. Because when you say, I will bless them, you're the one blessing. Why do you think the boy, the two brothers, Jacob and Esau, and one of them took the other one's blessing? Well, Esau should have just blessed himself, but he got mad. They start chasing Jacob around. I'm gonna get back at him. Isn't that where we go with this personal, supposed mortal mind? Isn't that what we do? I want revenge. I want to be justified. I need justice. Every program on TV, well, ain't nothing on TV except doctor shows and lawyers. People killing and people having to go to court. That's all on TV. And so, what are they looking for? I want justice for such and such a person. I want justice for this person. One day it dawns on you, and you say, that's not really what I'm looking for. I just don't want to be under this cloud, this dark cloud. I don't want to be under this bondage no more. Why? I'm looking for a city that has a foundation, whose builder and maker is God. I'm looking for the promised land. I don't want to be one of those listed in Hebrews 11 that says these all, even though they did great stuff on the earth, they didn't receive the promised land. What did Dr. King say? I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. He saw with clarity. What did he see? There's something way better than out here dealing with this world of good and evil and error and sin and all manner of tasteless. How can I say it? There's no way to say it. Just people have just gone awry, gone all over the place. He said, this is just, no. I see a better land. I see the truth. I'm out. And did what? He left. Left. Now, you're the one to bless it. You are the eye. You're the one that can bless your situation. You can bless anybody's situation. Anytime, remember, Jesus took on the role of a servant. He went around blessing people. And the more he blessed himself. The more he gave out, the more came. It didn't come from out here. It came as an expression of the idea of Luke 6:38. Give and it will be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will men give into your bosom. I had that happen all day yesterday. It was wonderful. It was tremendous. I mean, and I'll share a little bit of it with you when we're done here. But you are the answer. You're the one that blesses. Check out that Isaiah effect on YouTube. I'm telling you, it is wonderful. See, there's only one source. He brings that out. He makes that very clear. Everything comes from the same source. You say, yeah, but it doesn't look like it. Like my friend who said, why does a loving God let all of this stuff happen out here in the world? It's all coming from one source. Why does a loving God let you see all of the evil that's going on in this world so that you can discern that it is not real? It's you have to float up above it. You have to see beyond it. You have to know that the idea of harmony does not change. The idea of peace does not change. The idea of health and wealth and righteousness and power and glory, that doesn't change. So I don't care what you're looking at. Well, I got this big knot on my leg. I don't care. You ain't got no knot on your leg in heaven. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is right here, right now, in you. You are living in the kingdom of heaven right now. You think you got a knot on your head in heaven? Do you think you're sick in heaven? Do you think you can have any kind of problem in heaven? Well, thy will is done in earth as it is in heaven. So if I look in heaven and say, well, all I got is all I got. And God says all things are mine. Well, why am I out here trying to get somebody to give me something? Why do I think that there's a man who can give me my freedom? You know, why? Look how many people hook up with each other because of the way, oh, baby, the way you look, the way you make me feel, the way this, the way that. Why do they do that when they know it's going to change? It's going to change. You were 20 years old, oh man, she's gorgeous. You 80 years old, what happened? It's going to change. Why? Because it's mutable. It is not the body that God made. The one you sitting there looking at every day is not the body that God made. You have to discern the ideal body. And that body is perfect. It is not made with hands. So, there's only this one source, and everything is coming from this one source, no matter how it looks. You have to not fight with it, not try to destroy it. They always had the promised land, but they were fighting trying to get some promised land. I found it awful ironic, though, that it's interesting. Moses did not get an army together and fight against Pharaoh. Did y'all notice that? They just left town. Then they get out there to the Red Sea, and Moses has done all these things. He has brought the blood. He changed the Nile to blood, and got all these lice and frogs, and got all of these hail coming down and fire. All the firstborn of Egypt dies. But he gets in front of the Red Sea, and what does he do? Pharaoh is coming. Oh, wow. Lord calls out on God. What does God say? Why are you calling me? Lift up your rod. Lift up your understanding. Lift up your truth. You have heaven. Oh. They part, they go across. He shuts it down when the Egyptians want to come across. And he goes out in the wilderness and ain't no food. Oh, the manna comes down. No water. Oh, the water comes down. Who spoke to the rock? Moses. Who smote the rock with his? Moses. Oh, I'm going to punish you now, Moses. Why? Because you didn't speak to the rock. You smote the rock with a stick. So now you can't go to the promised land. What? That's Adam's dream at its finest. God is not going to stop anybody from coming into the promised land, which is the consciousness of heaven. He's not going to do that. But Moses thought he went from grace to speaking to the rock, to what he, smoting the rock is, what would you call that? The F word, fighting. He going to fight with a rock and make water come out of it. And he did. And he paid. Why did he pay? Because he thought he should pay for that. Let me tell you something. If I had smitten that rock and the water came out, and my mind would have said, oh, wow, man, you didn't do what God said do, man. You're going to have to pay. I said, no. We need the water. I don't think, ain't no way in the world you're going to tell me I can't go into the promised land because I made a mistake. Jesus Christ came into the world to show the world that even though you sin, you can still be beyond that. You are obeying your understanding of the truth. That's all you ever obey. Ain't no God separate apart from you. And what we read this a couple of weeks ago. Whatever you have realized God to be, that's going to be the manifestation that you experience. Whatever you experience God in your head and in your heart to be, that's going to be your understanding. So if you realize God, you sit there and say God is a loving God, but he's allowing the world to go to hell in a handbasket, that's going to be your experience. That ain't mine. Ain't my problem because they going to hell in a handbasket. Bless them and move on. Okay, so as we realize everything is coming from the one, then I want us to go through something that I went through yesterday. And it was beautiful. I was, every time I think about it, I just go, wow. Night before last, I was, I don't know whether, no, I do know. I thought I was asleep, but it felt like I was awake. I thought I was awake, but it felt like I was asleep. Anybody ever experienced that? You surface. It's like I'm really not asleep, but I am. I'm dreaming, but I'm not. It's just that's what it seems like. And that has happened to me a lot of times. Like the time when I was asleep, but I was awake, and I said, oh, there's Cynthia standing down there at the bottom of the hill. When I went down, I said, let me go down and give her a hug. When I got there, her body was so bright until I couldn't get anywhere near her. It was just all pure light. And I was like, wow, what in the world? But it felt like I was asleep and dreaming, but it felt like I was awake and not dreaming. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Well, that happened to me. It happens a lot, but 2 days ago, it happened. And all the whole time, here I am, hearing this voice. And one of my friends said yesterday, when it happens to him, he said, it seems like it's my voice. I said, yes. That's what it sounds like to me. Every time when I hear the voice speak, it's always mine. Sounds just like me. Only not as heavy and not as pronounced and not as loud. It's still, it's soft, but it's me. It sounds like me whispering. I don't know whether that, you know right now that if I whispered something to you and Dana whispered something to you, it's a difference in the whisper. You would be able to say that's not the same person that's whispering. However, when you hear the whispering going on in your head, you know it's you. And so I go to second. Okay, I got where I want to be. This is what I'm hearing. It's saying, whoever from now on is a follower of Christ is a new creation, and old things have passed away. Now, in the King James, this is the voice I was hearing. Now, I'm reading it from the Aramaic, but the voice I was hearing was 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. If any man be in Christ, then he is a new creation. Old things are passed away. Behold, all has become new in him. And I kept hearing it. And I'm telling you, it went on for over an hour. This voice is just speaking. And I'm asleep, but I'm not asleep. And then it was like, Christ in you, your hope of glory. And then the voice is saying, know ye not that Jesus Christ lives in you. And I'm just hearing this over and over, just like an endless loop that's constantly playing in my head. My body is popping. I'm feeling really good. And after so long, it just went on. And then I woke up. And I said, oh, man, I know where that is. It's in Corinthians. I'm going to go look it up. And in the Corinthians it says, if you are a follower of Christ, you are a new creation. Old things are passed away. All things have become new through God, who has reconciled us to himself by Jesus Christ and has given to us the ministry of reconciliation. You see why I said, I don't care who hurt you, bless them, because you are reconciling them. Something is going to happen. They will feel it. They will know the truth because you are saying, be blessed in God. When you say I bless you, you said I'm reconciling you to the Father. Who is the Father? Your man. Your man. We ain't talking about no personal mortal man that judges between good and evil. We talking about the mind of Christ. That's why I started that out that way. It's your man. For God was in Christ, who has reconciled the world with his majesty, not counting their sins against them. Not counting your mind is not going to count sins against you because that mind have without sin becomes sin for everyone. See, Jesus Christ, having no sin, became sin for everybody. All right, well, let's take one quick look at the difference in the actions of a Jesus and the actions of a Christ. Like Joel Goldsmith said, would the Christ have gone into the church and overthrow all of the tables? This is my Father's house. Would the Christ do that? No. Jesus did it. But the Christ would do what? We'll just look beyond that and know that this ain't going on in heaven. Ain't no Pharisees in heaven. That's like at the funeral I played last week, and I told the priest, I would say, well, like when you, I forgot about the Catholic Church. I forgot what they did in there. I just know that there ain't a whole lot that you get. You just in and out. It's like McDonald's. And, you get a quick hamburger and fries, and you out of there, And so he was like, I said, when you saying the prayer, I said, I'll just look up to you when you want us to start to sing a song after you've done what it is that you did. I said, and then I said, what we'll do is we play a little bit of real soft music when you do your prayer. You know what that man said to me? And I mean that. I'm saying this man, I ain't talking about no priest. He was the priest, but I'm calling him a man. You know what he said? Please don't do that. Please don't do that. We don't do that here. Before the Mary Orr and Michael Orr almost reared up and said, what you mean we don't do this here? Who is we? What makes you different from everybody else? But something told me, bless this dude, move on. just bless it, forget it. Give him what he wants because he's the one running it. And all these people are expecting him to do a certain something. And what was so hurtful, I don't mean hurtful, I suppose disappointing was when the funeral was over and when you heard people saying, I didn't get nothing out of this. I said, yeah, it should have been a little more meat on the bone, but wasn't nothing there. And we just went on. You see, when you are a servant, you serve the masses. The masses don't serve you. That's what you're saying. You're taking on the role of a servant. I am Christ. Old things are passed away. Everything has become new. It's new the moment you are able to let it go. Well, how do I let it go? I bless it. When I bless it and really mean it, I'm gone. I'm done. I don't have to deal with it anymore. And so it's like we are now ambassadors for Christ, as though God did beseech you by us. We beseech you for Christ. Be reconciled to God. If you're reconciled to God, be God. Be the man of Christ. Be the man that has no sin in it. For he who did not know sin for your sakes made himself sin, that we may, through him, be made the righteousness of God. Isn't that amazing? You just walk around thinking about, I am the righteousness of God. So now let's end this by me talking about the blessing. Okay. Jamal and I want you to keep thinking about the fact now, why we're here. Why am I here? A lot of people ask that. Okay? So keep that in mind. Keep in mind we just got through talking about old things that passed away. Henceforth know ye no man after the flesh, after the body. Don't even know yourself after this body that you're looking at, because that's not the idea of God. Okay? When you get a chance, go and read 2 Corinthians chapter 5, the entire chapter. Read all of it. Okay? So now, here we go. Jamal and I have a recording studio. I had, let's put it this way, past tense. Remember, old things have passed away. I had gotten behind in the payments for the IT, for the Comcast cable. So yesterday I said, well, I'm going to call them up and see if I can make a deal. Here's the mortal head. And so the lady answered. I said, is Jackie Hayes there? And she said, no, Jackie's not here right now, but I think she said, how can I help you? I'm quite sure I'll be able to help you. I said, well, Jackie said when I called to ask for her. And she understands, the situation. She said, well, I'll do the best I can. What's your name? I said, Michael Orr. She said, okay. She said, give me your the name of your company, how we got you. I said, I've got the ID number, and the company is Vision Song. She said, okay. He pulled it right up. And she said, okay, Mr. Orr. She said, yeah, you got a past due of like $1,100. That make you just kind of laugh, I said, yeah, I know. I said, I was wondering, can I give you $500 today to schedule it for the 23rd? I said, and then for the first payoff, she said, I can't extend out that far. She said, Mr. Orr, I'm sorry. She said, wow. And then she said, but wait a minute. Now, think about it. I'm sitting here going, I'm blessing Comcast. She said, let me look at something. She said, can you hold on a couple of minutes? I said, yeah. I said, I can hold on. She said, she comes back in about 2-3 minutes. I mean, it wasn't long at all. And she said, Mr. Orr, I got some good news for you. I said, okay, what's the good news? She said, you've been with us since 2015. That's like 9 years. She said, you qualify for our amnesty program. I said, amnesty program? She said, yeah, I know what amnesty means. So she says, that means that if you can give me $550.84 today. She said, can you do that? I said, yeah, I can do that. I was getting ready to give you $500 and say, just schedule it for, I said, $550.84. Because I'm going to try to schedule $500 for the 23rd, because I know on the 24th, my little Social Security check comes, and it'll be good. It'll go through the account, and I won't have to borrow no money out of something. She says, if you can give me $550.84 today, we will forgive the other $550.84, which is the other half. We'll forgive that. She said, plus, we're going to give you $60 a month credit for the next 6 months off your bill. I'm like, ma'am, are you God? She said, no, I'm not God. I said, yes, you are. She said, I assure you I am not God. I said, I assure you that you are. She said, so how can you say that? I said, because God is omnipresent, and right now he is presenting himself as you. She said, I've never thought of it like that. I said, if God is omnipresent, he's all presence. The presence of God is appearing as you, and you have helped me. She said, Mr. Orr, and plus, they getting ready to take away $65, almost $66 from you for being not in service participant. She said, so you need to straighten that out and get them to, she said, call back tomorrow and get the loyalty team, and they'll talk to you and your son about how to drop the bill down even further. And she said, oh, by the way, Jackie Hayes has come back right now. And she told Jack, she said, Jackie, I'm talking with Michael Orr on the phone, and Jackie said, oh, I remember Mr. Orr. She said, tell him I'm still working on trying to get my son down to his studio so he can go in and freestyle. I'm sitting there going, I can't make this up. What I have in heaven is all I have. Everything comes from one source. You got behind with Comcast. Yeah, but that was so you could see heaven, and you're going to get caught up. It's all mine anyway, Michael. Y'all see where I'm going with this? When you know what you have in heaven, and you ain't blaming God for you. Oh man. I'm sorry, y'all. My pad will also ring when my cell phone rings. So forgive me, Bach and Jamal, for stopping in the middle of my class, but there's nothing I could do about that situation. So at the end of the day, we need to understand God is always reminding us. The mind of Christ that is within us is always saying to us, you have the promised land. You looked for a city that had a foundation whose builder and maker was God. And you have the promised land. So remember I asked that question, why am I here? See, I am here to enjoy the experiences that I have in heaven. I am here to express those experiences that I have in heaven. I am abiding in the promised land. Why am I here? To experience the ecstasy of being. That's why I'm here. I ain't here to be no rock star. I'm here to experience the ecstasy of being, should that take on the form of the idea of rock star. It's as simple as that. You see, this is the promised land. Heaven on earth. That's the promised land. It can't be made any plainer than that. You are carrying heaven in you all the time because that's what you are. I am here to be an example of the promised land, to experience the ecstasy of being. I am here to know that my mind is a placid lake. It is a mirror. And whatever I put in front of that mind, it casts an image. Now, if I put nothing there except what's in heaven, it casts that image. When I take it away, does anything happen to the mirror? Does the mirror change? When you take something, you put something in front of your mirror, or you walk up in front of the mirror and you see the outpictured body that you have shaped and formed. When you step away from that mirror, does the mirror change? No, it stays the same. The mind stays the same. The mind is always what you are, what Christ is, what God is. And the idea that you place in front of that mirror is heaven, is harmony. And the forms will express themselves because you have decided, I am in the promised land, the consciousness of heaven. Amen. And so it is.